Welcome to a short video summary of the BenQ W1700 projector. You can read the full review via the link in the description or by clicking the card at the top right of the screen. This projector is part of the BenQ Home series of single chip 4K Ultra HD DLP projectors and is by far the cheapest example we've seen so far on the market, retailing for £1,499. The same model in the US market is called the HT2550. It uses the new smaller Texas Instruments 0.47 inch DMD DLP chip, which is 1920 by 1080 in resolution, but it uses an extremely fast mirrors flashing technique to move the mirrors 4 times within a single frame to create an image that has 8.3 million pixels on screen. So whilst it's not a true 4K Ultra HD native resolution chip being used, it does produce the pixel count on screen. However, as we keep saying here at AV Forums, resolution is not the be all and end all, even on a large screen. The white chassis is solid plastic, and at the front, which is grey in colour, we have the lens offset with a gold ring to the right hand side, with a 4K logo and the remote emitter sensor to the right of that, and to the far left is the exhaust port. This expels a lot of hot air from the bulb, and there's also a degree of light spillage from here when the projector is running. Above the lens on the top plate we have a recess with the lens focus and zoom controls, which are fully manual. These are easy enough to use, but you'll need to be very careful when focusing to make sure the entire image is sharp. To the bottom of the front plate is a movable white plastic stand that can raise the front of the projector up when table mounted. There are also 2 plastic screw feet to the rear of the projector to raise the back up if that's required. Other notable features of the design are to the top of the unit and controls for entering the menu system and powering the unit up should you lose the remote control. The supplied remote control is a decent plastic affair with a nice white finish and a bright backlight for use in a dark room. Lengthwise it's just a tad longer than the height of a 4K UHD Blu-ray case and just over a third of the width of one. Most of the important keys are large enough to be pressed without accidentally hitting the wrong option, with the most important around the directional keys in the centre. The remote fits neatly in the hand and has a good enough weight to feel solid and sturdy. Around the back, in a slightly recessed area, we have the power socket and connections. The main video inputs are 2 HDMI connectors and a PC VGA input. HDMI 1 is HDCP 2.2 and HDMI 2.0, so it will accept a UHD HDR signal. HDMI 2 is 1.4 capable only, and there's also no MHL support. We also get audio inputs and control ports, including 2 USBs, but these are for power and the other is for service use. Finally, there's a 12 volt trigger, and the power socket is to the bottom left of the back plate. As you can see in the grayscale graph, the cool color temperature preset had very good tracking with a low red energy from 40 IRE onwards and a slight rise in green, but overall it was fairly accurate for an out of the box mode. Delta E errors were also reasonable, with all under 4, with gamma tracking fairly close to 2.4 across the board. Looking at the colour gamut, the projector is limited to Rec 709, which is the triangle in the middle of the graph. It does however have some severe tracking issues with 75% saturation points. These are too bright and end up tracking the same as the 100% points, and this suggests that the BenQ is pushing luminance to make colours look brighter because it can't reach the wide colour gamut of DCI P3 for 4K material. This is a shame, as an accurate Rec 709 gamut and tracking is much more preferable than this attempt at artificially boosting colour luminance performance. The other tracking points are reasonable, and with a CMS on board we should be able to fix these issues and get an accurate Rec 709 gamut performance. The 2-point colour temperature controls worked well, and we managed to correct the grayscale tracking to achieve Delta E errors under 2. The gamma tracking was really as good as we could get it without having a gamma editor on board, and overall the on-screen performance with normal viewing material didn't show up any issues with colour casts or tints in the image. Thankfully, we're also able to use the colour management system to correct the issues we identified with the out-of-the-box results, and the tracking is now perfect, including the 75% points where luminance is also now correct and to the standard. The slight hue errors were harder to fix, and at 100% are not as important as 75% and below. So overall, we were very happy with the calibrated image that looks much more accurate and less garish with HD material. We're also pleasantly surprised to see that within the native capabilities of the projector, it was able to tone map HDR content properly. We did find that it clipped in the highlights, and lowering contrast did significantly improve the clipping, but this was at the expense of the EOTF tracking, so it is a bit of a compromise. As expected, with the colour gamut, the BenQ is restricted natively to close to Rec 709 in terms of gamut size, and manages less than 50% of the Rec 2020 colour space coverage, which is no surprise at all. In regards to DCI-P3 within Rec 2020, you can see that this is restricted and close to Rec 709 tracking, as we expected. Actual HDR viewing on the BenQ is non-existent with on-screen material, as it just doesn't possess the dynamic range to do much with the image. Very few projectors actually can show any real differences with HDR material, and they will never compete with TVs in any way when it comes to HDR brightness and specular highlights. We measured the peak white on a 10% window to be 185.1 nits, with full black at 0.2401 nits, which gives a contrast of 770 to 1. It's great that the projector accepts a 4K HDR signal and displays it as best as it can at the price point, but it just can't give that standout HDR dynamic range image or reach the wide colours required to be a true 4K all-rounder, like the slightly more expensive Epson TW7300 for example. And while this projector is a native 16:9 model, it also exhibits a light border around the image being displayed on screen. It's best explained in this clip if you follow my hand. That's a 16:9 area, this is the light area which is the same brightness as the black of the actual video area, and then off screen is actually properly black. So it's almost like the video signal is not filling out the entire projected area, and this can be quite annoying if you use a 2:3:5:1 screen. With a 16:9 screen, you can obviously just zoom the image out until the picture area touches the black borders of the screen, and you'll have no issues. In terms of actual picture performance in a Batcave cinema room, it's obvious that the BenQ really struggles to produce decent blacks or shadow detail in the image. This is not a home cinema projector for critical movie viewing in a dedicated cinema room. It's far better suited to normal living rooms with white surfaces, where the room black floor is already high, making the poor black levels and contrast less of an issue. Add in high brightness material like Planet Earth on 4K Blu-ray, and images can look very good indeed within the given limitations of the projector. Overall, we score the BenQ as a 7 out of 10 given its budget pricing and decent image quality in normal viewing rooms. If you want a home cinema projector with inky blacks, wide colour gamut support and excellent dynamic range, you're going to need to look elsewhere and at a much higher price point. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe, and don't forget to visit avforums.com, Europe's largest consumer home entertainment community. Thanks for watching.